Hi, besties. You've found your community bestie to share thoughts and opinions, recap the shows we love.
Having too much fun.
Bravo should be fun. And have piping hot gossip sessions about the celebrities and Bravo lebs we love, hate, and love to hate.
He went on a podcast claiming he had a threesome with two women from the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Immediately, I was like, I wonder if it's Brandy and Carlton.
I'm Caitlin Marshall, your pop culture and Bravo bestie.
Allegations, allegedly allegations.
And if you enjoy fun conversation between friends, listening to your bestie rant about shows we can't get enough of, plus enjoy a little bit of, well, ridiculousness.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. There's a spider that is coming down. Hold on.
It's like the Blair Witch Project.
Oh my God. Has anybody seen my ring?
Oh my God.
I don't want to ruin the party or anything.
Have you seen my ring? Oh my God. Can you look on the floor for my ring? God, someone's gonna kill me.
Don't mess with me because I will come.
What? Oh.
Feel free to leave that in for whatever entertainment purposes.
You're in the right place. So thanks for joining me on Besties by Bravo. Hi, besties. Thank you for joining me today, Wednesday, April 2nd. Y'all, April Fool's Day is always the worst day to be on the internet. Yesterday, I can't tell you how annoying I find it when people are posting fake news. It's one thing, I think, if I don't know, a company makes a joke about a fake product. Okay, that's like a fun way to be creative and silly. But when your content creators are trying to bait you into believing certain things, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm no fun. I think I'm fun. Maybe I'm not, but I feel like it's a way to lose your trust. I don't know, just me. But I was quite silent on the old internet yesterday for that reason. Because why? You can't believe anything. Gosh, dang it. Anywho, let's get into the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills reunion part 1. If you are listening on audio, this is going to be in 2 parts because surprisingly, should I say unsurprisingly, I have a lot of notes, and I have to say it's because I found the reunion far more interesting than 9/10 of the season. We got a lot of answers, I think. Don't you? Maybe. We so far we've received some answers. I spoke too soon. Anywho, let's get on into it. Also, let me add, if you are listening on audio, when you finish this, head on over to the feed. Part 2 will be up immediately. If you're watching on YouTube, you're good. We're hanging out. You're here the whole time with yours truly. Ain't that fun? Oh my gosh. I knew these ladies had to get there early. And granted, they didn't have to do their hair and makeup prior, but I'm sure they had to shower, have their hair dry, have their life together at 6 a.m. Even in LA, there is traffic at 6 a.m., let me just say. And did Sutton buy Garcelle a vibrator as a reunion gift? I'm a little confused by that. What? Okay. I think she was going to have some tension going on. Okay. Well, Kyle, there is no vibrator involved. She is charging her crystals out in the sun, which I'm not knocking anyone who uses crystals. In fact, I wear some on a bracelet all the time. I didn't realize you were supposed to charge them in the sun. Anywho, the crystals thing, for some reason, it seems very un-Kyle-like to me. I don't know about you. Just didn't really feel like Kyle Richards, I have to say. Andy goes into her trailer while she's getting glam and asks her how she feels about the viewers thinking it's a double standard in what Kyle is willing to share versus what the others are expected to share. She turns that finger right around to Garcelle, saying we haven't seen anything from Garcelle's life, and that all Sutton gave us was her sustainable fashion line. Sutton gave us a lot. Not that when I say she gave us a lot, let me say I don't agree with a lot of the stuff she gave us. I'm a slutton, but not that much of a slutton that I will overlook when someone's not being very nice.
Garcelle tells Sutton TMZ had stopped her and told her Kyle was saying that the two of them are good, which obviously Garcelle isn't thinking is quite accurate. Erica goes in and asks Kyle if she's watched the full season yet, and Kyle admits that she's actually watching it backwards. I find that interesting. I kind of like that for some reason. Erica lets Kyle know you need to watch the Viper Room episode, where Kyle and Dorit were like lunging at each other. And Kyle jokes about trying to get out of the reunion, how Sutton kind of did last year. Not kind of did, she did when she fainted. And Erica says that she died on Law and Order when she was 18, so she's good at convulsing. Oh my gosh. So yeah, I looked up Erica's IMDb. Hi, Heather DeBro. And she does have a few credits. This episode, it looked like it was 2 episodes actually. She played someone's girlfriend. It was in 1990. 2 years after I was born. That's wild. I don't know why I don't think of Erica as being much older than me, but apparently she is. Andy goes to Dorit, and I don't think we need to be concerned. Let me just say that Dorit won't ensure that she gets every single thought she has out on that stage in as many sentences and paragraphs and chapters as possible. I have to say, these reunion looks, this is the best overall cast reunion look I think we've ever seen. They have never looked this on point, and it was Garcelle's best reunion look. Sadly, her last, but moving on. Garcelle notices that when they are all sitting, that Kyle is probably still a little pissy at her because I guess Kyle won't look at her. Garcelle was trying to tell her, oh, you look really pretty. And Kyle did sort of acknowledge her, not much though. And Kyle brought the crystals on stage. My best guess is that Morgan is into crystals. So now Kyle is too. Erica apparently had a feature in a song that was on the Oscar-winning movie Honora. That is the most random and wild thing I've heard. Like I'm not knocking Erica on this at all. Please keep that in mind. But who in that production was like, who we got to get on this track? Erica Jane. Yeah, the one on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I don't know why they are suddenly some sort of East Coast type of dude, but they are that Erica Jane. She's something. I really think so. Pat the great stuff, man. We got to get her on this movie. So wild. Andy jokes with Garcelle after congratulating her on the new granddaughter she has named Valley that he heard LVP is trying to be the godmother. And y'all, did you see the look on Kyle's face when he said that? Oh. Andy tells Bose she had a fantastic first season, and she says she's excited and that it was a great time, which Kyle and Dorit commiserate that said no one ever. I don't know. I can't imagine what it must be like. I can only imagine, I should say. Apparently, Dorit had a spread in British Vogue. Wow. Take that, PK. She's even taking over Britain. Why are we always asking what the intention is at the top of the reunion? Like, I get what Andy's trying to do, but this has become the number one thing that's over and over. Of course, it's for everyone to resolve their issues so that they can come back for not season 2, but for the next season. Duh. We start with Dorit's package. Those editors were kind of like cruel, showing that anniversary party with PK saying how much I love you, baby. Golly. That would have been hard to watch if it were me. And we see all the stuff with Dorit saying PK's not a good father, a full-blown alcoholic. And then Dorit smoking being an iconic moment, and all the memes that it launched is now brought to the table, with Andy asking Dorit more about the smoking, with how long she's been doing that, when she says she's mostly been a social smoker. And every single face in that room, except for Bose, is giving her that look like, okay, sure. Like, really, Dorit, you're not just going to be honest? Because you could tell Dorit did not love being asked about her smoking history, longevity, all of that. And Erica does point out, well, I think it started out as a social thing, but over the years, it's become a stress smoker. Here's the thing. These shows that your quote unquote friends are on with you, they're not going to support covering nothing for you. At least anything that you're embarrassed about. Unless you're Kyle, then yes, Erica and Sutton will do that for you. Andy asks Kyle if PK sent her a meme of Dorit smoking. Apparently not. I wonder why not. Why? Why didn't you, PK? Kyle is asked, based off of a viewer question, if she too felt that this season seemed as though it was intended as Dorit's gripping onto her diamond and job season. Kyle says in the beginning it did feel like Dorit was just trying to keep her job because she saw a different Dorit this year. Dorit now is pointing out that Kyle is friends with the execs and essentially decision makers at the network, so she would have heard if Dorit was losing her job. So the fact that Dorit was asked back should essentially make that thought pretty much null and void. But Kyle just kind of says she stands by saying that, and it's how she felt. Dorit now is questioned about not telling the kids about the separation with PK, and I'm sorry, I found her answer to be quite bizarre when you think about it. She says she doesn't regret choosing not to tell them and that the children aren't asking the questions. Just that as long as they see Dorit and PK happily getting along, they're good. They're children, Dorit. They're not even teenagers. They don't know what questions they need to ask. I feel as though you as a parent are supposed to provide the answers before they even would have any idea of what question to ask. Does that make sense? I understand if you guys aren't sure what you're doing, that you don't want to confuse them going back and forth and back and forth. But at the same time, they shouldn't have the questions for you. You should just have the answers. You know what I'm saying? At least on something like this. Sutton saying on the after show last year that even though her kids knew she and Christian were separated, they weren't aware that he had filed for divorce until a year after the fact. And that Sutton regrets not telling them, which Dorit asks her, why? What were the consequences? I have to say, I think right here, Dorit is genuinely asking this question and is frightened of causing some sort of trauma for children because of not telling them. Because isn't that the thing about being a parent? You suddenly hear that, oh, children who watch this show, preschoolers are going to be more violent when they're older. And then you're like, oh my God, I've ruined them. I've ruined them. Or it can just be children who eat things like broccoli, kumquats, and I don't know, persimmons. That's a fruit, right? Oh my God. It's not just a color, I don't think. Some days, my friends, I'm smarter than others, and some days I'm dumber than others. Anywho, it can be just something like that. Kids who eat those things are more likely to be successful in life. And then you're like, well, I've never given them a kumquat. Where do I even find one? That is called being a parent. So I understand and I empathize with Dorit here. Part of the problem with the way Dorit was asking her is her disdain for Sutton had the question coming out in a very, I don't know, I'd say pointed way, in a very, oh, well, what were the consequences for you, Sutton? When I think Dorit was trying to genuinely ask that. But Sutton says that there weren't necessarily consequences for choosing to do that. It was more about keeping the trust with her children and honesty with them so that they trust her. Andy questions if Dorit not telling the kids is due to a hope that it won't be completely done between her and PK. And even though Dorit says no, I believe that has to be a layer of it. Don't confuse your kids and traumatize them and give them unhealthy ideas of relationships, romantic relationships, I should say, for them thinking that you just go back and forth and that's normal. So that should be a part of it. But Dorit adds that she wouldn't want to be back with PK the way things are now, but that yes, she is still very much in love with him and he's my soul. Andy tells her they asked PK if he wanted to appear today, and Dorit says, I know. He declined. I know. He did send a statement, though. Did he? Oh, he did now. Huh. Jeez. I mean, shit. What was his statement, Andy? Well, don't worry, friends. I went ahead and took a screenshot of this because I did not want to type the whole thing out. So here we go. PK's statement was, I was invited to be a part of the reunion, but declined because I'm not doing the British accent. I'm not doing that to y'all. I'm sorry. I don't believe engaging with Dorit in this forum would be constructive. Dorit has made several mischaracterizations about me, but the one I must address is the claim that I am a bad father. That statement is both heartbreaking and false. It is deeply hurtful to me and, more importantly, to our children, who, despite Dorit's assertion, will inevitably see and hear all of this at a time not of our choosing. Those closest to us know the truth, and many have wanted to speak out, but I have asked them not to because the truth should never need a champion. Okay. I refused to stoke a fire I did not ignite. The Dorit I married would never have allowed this, much less caused it. That woman embodied kindness, integrity, and grace. I can only hope this version of Dorit finds her way back to the person she once was. Thoughts here. Okay. While I have to say, regardless of the type of parent PK actually is, I can see why he would be upset, clearly, and hurt by her saying that he was not a good father. I also have to say that that closing part of the statement, it feels as though PK is actually saying the Dorit I married would protect me and my shitty behavior. This Dorit, I don't know, because she's willing to talk about my shitty behavior to the world. Right or wrong, that's the way I'm taking it, period. But also, listening to Andy try and read that, like, Jesus Christ, y'all, PK is just as long-winded as Dorit. That's probably why he's so pissed at her. He talks just as much, and she hasn't let him do it for years. Dorit points out that PK could have been there that day and that she would support that because she didn't think it was fair that only one side was being heard. The comment about how Dorit has changed is touched on a little bit more by Andy. And in my opinion, I felt that she had a great answer to that, which was simply that if she had not changed in 14 years, then that's something that would actually be bad, and that there would be something wrong and something that maybe needed to be looked at if that were the case. Now Andy asks Dorit if PK was finding issue with her shtick of glitz, glam, all of that. She says that she does believe that that was a driving force in some of it, but that PK loves it all. That PK loves when people come up and ask for a picture. And y'all, let's not forget, it was PK who wanted Dorit to get on the show and who pushed her into doing it. Look it up. It's true. Andy asks if Dorit's fame changed PK, which she isn't sure, but agrees that yes, PK is insecure. When Andy tries to clarify if it's insecurity around Dorit's fame, she just says, I don't know, maybe, which makes Sutton and Garcelle give very like, yeah, okay, really, Dorit type of looks, and Garcelle's cracking up. Dorit says it's hard to see things a certain way unless she takes a big step back because she doesn't want to see her husband in that way. So essentially, it does sound as though PK was struggling with Dorit becoming more successful than him. Men, women in your life, your romantic partner, absolutely can be more successful than you. And if anything, you should enjoy it and celebrate her, period. Andy asks Kyle if she thinks fame has changed Dorit in any way. And Kyle says that she saw Dorit this season she didn't know and thinks Dorit would have to agree on that as well. When asked what was different about Dorit, Kyle has a hard time answering this, saying that Dorit definitely was angry and that it was just a very different Dorit, but that she doesn't feel as though it was a different side of her because she feels that she knows Dorit quite well. But it was just a different girl. Andy brings up when Dorit confided in Kyle over PK's temper and that there was a strong viewer reaction to Kyle saying that it's not the PK she knows. Yeah, well, Kyle, it wouldn't be the PK you know because people are their best and worst selves in front of their partners. Truly. But this most specifically was when Dorit was referring to PK as the monster. Kyle saying that she felt Dorit might be exaggerating about PK and his behavior gave people the same feeling as when DV victims are brushed off. With Dorit saying Kyle being flippant about her saying PK's temper is horrible, and how Kyle thought Dorit might have been exaggerating is part of what hurt her the most from Kyle this season. And Dorit's point here is very on the nose and correct, and I fully, wholeheartedly agree with her, which is when she explains to Kyle is supposed to know Dorit better than PK, especially if the relationship she has with PK is nothing more than memes and jokes. So she should know Dorit better than PK and know her better enough to not believe that Dorit would be exaggerating about that Or maybe on the flip side, Kyle should know her well enough to know if she was exaggerating. But Kyle says she was more so feeling that it was about PK not being there to defend himself from what Dorit was saying, and brings up the alcoholic bad dad monster labels, and points out then that PK did not call himself an alcoholic on camera, that he'd only said publicly that he'd stopped drinking, with Dorit telling her PK gave her permission to say that. I mean, she claims he says it was okay for her to go ahead and say on camera that he was an alcoholic. But when Dorit says PK gave her the permission to speak on his journey with sobriety on camera, Kyle says that journey with sobriety is different than alcoholic. Number one, I think Kyle is very much projecting here because of her own decision to not drink anymore and not wanting to be labeled an alcoholic just because she is on a journey to sobriety. Being sober and being on a journey to sobriety, I do fully agree with her on this, versus being an alcoholic are two different things, okay? Just because someone drinks doesn't mean that they're an addict, but an alcoholic is an addict. Big difference. But I also fully believe that PK told Kyle that he was upset. Dorit called him an alcoholic, and now she's just trying to tread lightly so she doesn't get in trouble for having another conversation with PK about Dorit. My opinion. Andy brings up that it seems that there's the thought that Dorit was weaponizing the word alcoholic. And Kyle tries to explain, look, I learned a lot from season 1, when she went after her sister Kim, after in that limo, after Kim had said, "You stole my goddamn house." And Kyle called her an alcoholic, and how, they all say things out of anger sometimes that they wish they hadn't in the moment. And then, oh no, Sutton, it's not your turn yet. I really wouldn't. I would let this be between Kyle and Dorit, because Kyle is not going to stand up for you at all during this reunion. I'm sorry, but it's not going to happen. You are going to try and give her as many opportunities as you possibly can, and she will not do it. I'm predicting this, okay? But Sutton's not listening to me. So she tells Dorit that to her, it seemed as though Dorit was throwing her husband under the bus because of how Dorit kept repeating the word alcoholic part, over and over. But Dorit tells her, look, it did appear that way, but this was over the course of a week, seeing different people and having to essentially give explanations about the separation. Dorit says that she felt that Kyle was diminishing what was going on between her and PK. And I just had a thought. You have to admit, that it is quite interesting timing that PK and Dorit chose to go ahead and release a public statement on separating the week they pick up those cameras to start filming. Isn't that interesting? I'm not saying that the separation is fake, but I am saying I believe they chose to speak on it publicly at a very, and I guess the most opportune time they could have. You have to admit that, y'all. You have to. But Kyle ends up reminding Dorit of where the friendship between Kyle and Dorit was at that point, and how she felt that Dorit was exaggerating a lot of things about her. So it caused her to question if Dorit was doing the same thing to PK. But Dorit's like, okay, so what exactly do you think I was exaggerating about you? And both Kyle and Andy say that they're going to get to that. But Dorit says,
Well, I want you to tell me when it's at the forefront of your mind. I just don't want you to forget.
Dorit, just let it go. You're going to get there. It's more, and that statement tells me it's more about Dorit wanting to be on her game with the thoughts she has at the moment and doesn't want to forget them. I have ADHD, so obviously I know what that's like. That's why people with ADHD tend to be really bad about interrupting, because that thought's going to float away. It's going to go away. Going to go bye-bye. Anywho, Kyle says that when Dorit was so upset at Sutton's over the texts, Sutton's party, I assume, and how it wasn't mentioned that Kyle did send Dorit a text message, Dorit points out Kyle sent PK a text first when this separation was announced, and that Kyle only sent the message to Dorit when Erica got on her about it, which the flashback that Kyle asks for does show that even though, Kyle did want them to roll those tapes, it doesn't show Kyle's favor on this. It shows that Erica was like, you need to send a message to Dorit. Kyle feels that Dorit was choosing to see the worst in the situation, even though she sent her a message and no one else did. Then points out that it was only about how Kyle didn't send her a message when she did, but that no one else was called out for that. Now, Dorit makes another great point, which is that it's not about whether she sent her the message or not. It's that she sent a message to PK before she sent one to Dorit, who's supposed to be her real friend. Andy then asks Dorit how long PK has been sober at this point. Oof. Okay, this is about to get rough, my friends, because Dorit's going to pay for how she responded to this. And when I say she's going to pay, PK's going to just lash her over it verbally. I just know he is. Dorit looks at Andy and says,
It's not a topic that we discussed, as I've discovered very recently, so I couldn't answer that.
and Erica's like, is he drinking again? Is that what that means? And so Andy asks Dorit, is he drinking again? But Dorit tells him,
I have no idea. He tells me it's something I'm choosing not to discuss with you.
well, he probably did see how much you blabbed this season about him and now won't tell her F all. But I'm sorry. That's something PK does have to discuss with Dorit if he has their kids for any period of time and is going to be watching over them by himself. Excuse me. I do think that that's her business, especially if he has at the very least admitted to her that he is an alcoholic. And that's the thing about alcoholics. It's not just one drink. So, anywho, Dorit then says that she told PK that the way he was making her feel when he said that to her was that she doesn't even think she can have a relationship with him or friendship with him. And apparently this whole thing was less than a week before filming the reunion. And Erica, listen, I swear to God, not all inside thoughts have to be said out loud. And that is something I have to remind myself of constantly. It's like, Erica, do you need some Adderall? Do you need some Vyvanse? What's going on? Because she literally interrupts this very deep moment by asking if the coffee table is the one from her own living room. And, isn't that funny? It's just another reminder that her little HGTV segment was all she had going on this season. Andy then lobs it on over to Sutton, asking her if she's concerned about Dorit and PK with the finances, separation, and having to deal with a forensic accountant. Good gosh, just the phrase forensic accountant kind of makes me sweat. Which Sutton says, yeah, I am concerned for Dorit. And I also don't blame Dorit for being like, are you effing kidding me? Because Dorit says to her,
You have to actually care about someone, have compassion, like someone to be worried about them.
and Sutton, oh God, she says, I worry about all women, which makes Dorit put on a huge show of cackling at that. Sutton asks her whose name is on the mortgage. Do you know that? And Dorit's like,
I'm not going to answer any of your questions. You think I'm going to tell you?
well, no, I don't think you're going to tell Sutton. But if Andy asked that, do I think you would tell him? No, and I wonder why. They keep talking over each other, with Dorit saying this isn't about the questions that Sutton is asking, but rather that Sutton doesn't support women.
You don't support women, Bethany.
Sorry. Sutton is telling her at the same time that it's important for Dorit to know these things, which she is correct. And that when she got divorced, she was surprised with the information that she had 2 baseball teams. Lord, one could only wish. Or manifest, I guess. Now Andy asks Dorit if their house is in foreclosure, and she says no. When Andy brings in, how there have been the reports of it, and she says it was in pre-foreclosure, but that she had no idea. And that what PK gave her as an explanation was that they changed the rate and no one would return his calls. So because that's the way he does business, PK decided that until they gave him a call back, he wasn't going to pay. Sadly, I am personally not a current homeowner yet. But I'm pretty sure, call me crazy, that's not how it works. And boys, Bose says as much by saying, that's how you lose a house. Dorit says they called him back, so it's resolved. So PK got that hurt that they weren't returning his call. Okay. She and PK, as of a week ago, well, when she's asked about the status of their relationship and communication, she does say that as of a week ago, she's decided she has no relationship with him and that he does see the kids on Saturday night if he's in town. And I think that must be what Dorit means by whether PK is a good father or not, which is you kind of have to be there to be a parent. We get to Bose's segment, and she does confirm that she did watch the show before coming on, which thank you. Thank you, Bose. No one who is a new cast member ever admits that. And I love that you just admitted it, because we all know every single new cast member watches the show and they just will deny that they watched it. Makes me nuts. Anywho, Bose says that the difference between watching and being on the show was that watching it, you don't know the intricacies of the group dynamics, and that if you're watching it, it can appear as though some things are played up, but that experiences that this group has and filming it firsthand, she adds that because of the amount of time that is spent together, it's part of why it feels so heightened and that it's all very real. And then it's also brought up how Bose lost her home in Malibu due to the fires. And this is something that I did find annoying. And I don't know. And this is not me reaching. I promise I'm not, because I clocked it last night when I watched live. And then I clocked it again today watching. You know, as white women, when a Black woman is speaking, you don't need to finish your sentences for her. We may do that for each other, but sometimes we have to remember that Black women have had to overcome being talked over constantly. And it's something even I personally have to work on. So I'm not condemning anyone, and I'm not trying to say Dorit's being racist, anything like that. I think it's one of those things that we have to be aware of, certain microaggressions that happen. And and the reason I bring it up is not to make anyone feel bad or like they're doing something very wrong. It's just, I want to share what I learn. And the more we learn, the more you know. Okay. But Dorit did insert herself in it when Andy asked Bose how it felt when that happened, which also, what a dumb question. Felt like shit, Andy, duh. But anywho, Dorit jumps in saying,
25 years of hard work down the drain.
yeah. But Bose goes on to say that once the media sensationalization is gone, you're left with the insurance companies and picking up the pieces, which breaks my heart for her. That's in any single human being who dealt with this. Now we move on to Bose's relationship with Keely. Bose says she's been very surprised by the response to her relationship with Keely and how it's so mixed in the reaction to it. They all thought it was a red flag that Keely and Bose were talking about having kids before saying I love you. And I do fully, wholeheartedly agree. You should at least know that there's love there, because there's a difference between loving someone and being in love with someone. So anyway, Sutton telling Bose in an unseen scene that she felt it was a red flag that Keely had no kids and had never been married is now brought up. Sutton admits that her own dating life isn't exactly it. So she goes ahead and takes that one for herself, but that she does feel maybe a man being around 50 with no kids and never married makes her feel that maybe he has commitment issues. Which Andy says, I'm 50 and I've never been married. Sutton just goes, I know, and look at you. Which becomes a whole joke because no, Andy has never voiced wanting to be married. And then he pretends to be all sad boy and just says, I have commitment issues. A viewer question is brought forth about Bose being willing to literally risk her own life to have another child with a man who hasn't even said, I love you yet. And, you know, I do find what Bose answers to this to be a very interesting aspect of what being a reality star or a celebrity in general means. That I feel like a total asshole that I haven't thought about this before. And I should have considered this before. And I think that says a lot about how I've just been in my own world. She says that the hardest part of all of this is people she doesn't know who don't know her poo-pooing her hopes and dreams, which apparently for her, having another child is something she's wanted for 16 years, but was very frightened to admit that, of course, because of all of the health issues and the trauma she went through when she was pregnant the first time. Andy asks Bose about the somewhat surprising friendship between Dorit and herself. And I have to say, yeah, it is kind of surprising that Bose watched the show and saw some of the microaggressions Dorit has displayed toward Garcelle, and more so the way Dorit doubled down on it whenever Garcelle tried to have an informative conversation with her. I'm not saying Bose should absolutely not have given Dorit a single chance in hell, but I'm also saying it's interesting. It kind of surprised me. Bose brings up how much she appreciated that when she met up with Garcelle prior to filming starting, that she asked her what the tea was on everyone on the cast. She wanted everything. She wanted her to give her the download. But Garcelle wouldn't tell her anything and told her to go in with fresh eyes, give everyone a chance. So, because Bose was inspired by Garcelle's directive to get to know everyone, be open to it, and have her own relationship with people on the cast, that's just how it happened at Sutton's party because Dorit came in open as well. Now, the embryo up Bose's coochie and Dorit is so far up Bose's ass, it's gross comments are in the light. Dorit says that those statements were pathetic, in her opinion. And Bose says on the after show, or said on the after show, I should say, that maybe there was jealousy on Sutton and Garcelle's part, that she was giving all of her attention and focus to Dorit, and that was why they were being so meh about it. Garcelle denies that and says the only time she had a problem with that was when they were in Oceanside and Dorit and Bose had some sort of an aside conversation for about an hour. Then she points out that the last 5 years, everyone has had an issue with Sutton and Garcelle being friends, and the flashbacks are few and far between, but there should have been more. Andy tells Garcelle, well, it would make sense though if you both get it and let it go that Bose and Dorit are friends after all the shit you've gotten for it. And yeah, okay, but also the way Dorit is up, Bose's cutie patootie booty is not giving genuine, y'all. It feels put on. And I think that's what is being called out here. It's just not very Dorit. It doesn't feel authentic, but I don't know. Maybe it's just
Dorit 2.0.
Garcelle says she wasn't questioning how Bose and Dorit could have anything in common. And that's basically what she and Sutton have had to deal with. And then, of course, Garcelle and Sutton get stuck together with her gloves that she had just told Sutton after the break that she can't touch her because they'll get stuck together. But Garcelle then says, look, I'm happy for Dorit that she has a friend. And it has a friend in Bose, which obviously it sounded like she's saying, oh, yeah, I'm happy for you that you at least have one friend, Dorit, which Andy does pick up on. Bose says what rubbed her the wrong way was mostly the implication that she was being manipulated by Dorit. I mean, girl, I think you were just a little bit, because the manipulation is the way Dorit was presenting herself as a slightly different type of person than she is and has been. Kyle says she doesn't believe that Bose was being manipulated, and it does seem like Kyle is trying to kiss Bose's ass now. She wants to push Dorit out of that friendship so badly. You can just tell. And oof, wow. Bose then says that Garcelle and Sutton must not think very highly of themselves if they believed that Dorit could manipulate her into not liking them. Ooh, okay. Andy moves on to how Bose said at Kathy's house she felt that Kyle was a bit cold to her and didn't feel quite as welcomed by Kyle. Kyle says she went to Bose's room in Oceanside, but Bose is like, no, Kyle, come on now, that never happened. Kyle then tells Bose, you don't want to do this right now. That's a little bit of a threat, ma'ams. Kyle says she grabbed a producer to bring her to Bose's room where she told Bose she really liked her, thought she was amazing, and that she also did go to Bose's house after Bose's surgery. That they had a very candid conversation, which is a lot for Kyle, with someone new when cameras are around. Oh, okay, Kyle. The number of times Kyle has brought up on camera, when cameras are there, cameras in the room, off camera, it's starting to irk me. And we aren't even all the way into this yet, are we? But hey, Kyle, right? Just be honest. Bose tells her that the conversation they had was actually about Dorit, and Kyle reminds her she said she didn't even remember the conversation with her as well because of being on the medication after her surgery. Ooh, and then Bose just tells Kyle that, well, I don't know what to tell you. The conversations weren't that memorable. Ooh, okay. And Kyle brushes that right off, but I think it's going to be a thing later. That's maybe not this reunion, but it's next season. It's going to be a thing. Now we are on to Garcelle. Life, questioning Kyle on Morgan Wade. At the end of the package, Andy talks about Erica saying on Entertainment Tonight that she wants to see more of Garcelle and Sutton's lives. And Garcelle and Sutton are both like, what are you talking about? And then Erica tells them,
We want the juicy scoop.
did Heather McDonald pay Erica to say that? Did she? Garcelle says she wishes there was more, but Erica tells her that's my point, that they want to know who she's dating, things like that. And Garcelle's like, look, I'm working my ass off, spending as much time as I can with my kids. And I mean, I'm not really getting any action. Apparently, there was just one guy she went on 2 dates with, and that's about it. So they ask Erica, what is it that you're wanting from Garcelle? Just as Garcelle is telling her, there's nothing I'm not showing. Then she asks Erica, well, do you know something? Like, what am I forgetting type of thing? And Erica goes,
No, I wish you were more interesting, I guess.
wow. Okay. So, Erica, this is why the cast does not work in casting on these shows. Because what you don't understand is that Garcelle makes the show more interesting by asking the questions and pushing on things no one else will. Garcelle is what we call the voice of the audience. Okay. You have to have that person. Otherwise, the audience gets very frustrated and your show is tanked. And with Garcelle leaving, I'm not saying this entire show hinged on Garcelle's shoulders. What I am saying is that, look, if you lose that type of person on a show like this one where no one will talk, then you're in trouble. You're in trouble. Garcelle tells Erica that it was a shitty thing to say to her because, look, I thought we were in a better place. And Erica claims, yeah, they are. But Garcelle's like, clearly we aren't if you can say something like that to me. Erica claims now that herself, Kyle, and Dorit going through public divorces is the example of showing your life. Erica, you had no choice. It was very public because of all the lawsuits, and you're still dealing with the Marco shit. Garcelle reminds her that her own divorce happened before she came on the show. So, like, honestly, what do you want from her? Now, Kyle's going to join in and talks about how Garcelle says that she's not showing enough of her life when she's been showing it for so long and showing so much. The 14 years of family relationships, falling outs, her marriage, things like that. Garcelle now makes the point that last year, Morgan was a part of filming and the show, and that now all of a sudden this year, Kyle is refusing to speak about Morgan when they're all seeing them together and the speculation in the press. So it's like, what are they supposed to do? Not be allowed to speak about Morgan at all and pretend it's not happening? Like, is that reality? Because you are on reality TV. Kyle says Morgan didn't sign up for the show and didn't want to be a part of it, but Garcelle calls attention to the fact that Morgan didn't sign up for the show this year. Kyle says that being a part of the show created a lot of anxiety for Morgan and she didn't want to do it again. And that because Morgan didn't want to be a part of it, she's going to respect that. But also, Morgan is trying to be a famous country singer. So is it fame or is it the dynamics of the show? If it's just the dynamics of the show, that I understand. But also, why are you gallivanting around town with Kyle like this then? Having her in your music video just doesn't really make sense to me. It doesn't. And Kyle also is trying to say that Morgan did the show as a favor to Kyle. I don't know. It's odd. Something about it is just off because if she did it as a favor to her and Kyle did her a favor by going in her music video, so what is it? Because we don't even care at this point if you guys are in a relationship. What's more annoying is the way you have preached at everyone to bring it all and be honest. So what is it? Where are we? What's happening? You know? Anywho, what comes next is Kyle thinking that this sort of shower thought and conclusion she had is a good point, and it's not, girl, because it's not even remotely comparable. Kyle tells Garcelle, look, your son didn't want to be a part of the show this season, and I respect that. Because, Kyle, kids are different, dude. Okay? It's different. Oh my God. Okay. Kyle tells Garcelle she was very hurt by her this season, which Garcelle's like, yeah, well, I was hurt by you too. That surprises the hell out of Kyle, I guess. And that causes Garcelle to remind her that, look, you even apologized for calling me an asshole on the after show, but apparently I'm going to have to say my opinion is that that apology was not genuine because Kyle tells her, I called you that as a result of your behavior. Oh, okay. I mean, if you really meant the apology, then you'd probably say, and I'm sorry I said that. It was in reaction to things you were saying, but that was wrong. I'm sorry. So I think she meant it, obviously. After Kyle has basically kind of taken back that apology she gave to Garcelle for calling her an asshole, Garcelle starts telling Kyle, look, it appears as though they're not actually being truthful if they're not going to talk about these things on camera, and that it looks like they're basically just playing games with everyone. Kyle's going to latch on to Garcelle saying how it looks, that it looks like something, telling Garcelle that, look, I've had private conversations with you where I explained things and the why behind them. Garcelle says, look, I kept my mouth shut about those things. But the question is, why did you, Kyle, come to me off camera and talk to me about it there, but not on camera? And this is where it's hard, friends, because are we entitled to everything in their lives? No, we're not. But at the same time, if you shout from the rooftops over and over, just be honest, for 14 years and then refuse to do the same, it's going to come back to haunt you, period. End of statement. And the parts of their lives that we're supposed to be seeing, look, it's your romantic life. That's part of what this is. At the same time, no one on any planet should ever be outed when they are not ready. At the same time, what are you doing? We don't even care anymore, Kyle, because we all already have come to our own conclusions. Kyle's answer to Garcelle when she asks why we had this conversation off camera and not on camera is that she thought Garcelle was her friend, and that's why. And now Garcelle's going to get it because she's going to get Sutton's ass for being two-faced. Garcelle asks Sutton to repeat what she said after Kyle left a conversation that was just the three of them off camera. And Sutton very reluctantly admits that she said, I think that Kyle wants to protect Morgan, which Garcelle is finally holding Sutton to it. Good job, Garcelle. Garcelle tells Sutton that it's not what she said. And what she actually stated was, that was a chess move. And everyone just goes, see, there it is. Okay, but if that's what it was, that's what it was. Kyle says that Sutton and Garcelle together are mean girls. Really, Kyle? Come on. Give me a break. Y'all know I love Kyle, but this is frustrating to me. Garcelle says that they were laughing in Chuck E. Cheese about it all and how Kyle then went on the after show and called Garcelle an asshole, which Kyle says it was because Garcelle was trying to embarrass her with the, if you want to be a lesbian, be a lesbian. But Garcelle tells her that's not where I was coming from. It was a place of just be who you are and want to be without worrying or caring what people think anymore. But Kyle 100% thinks Garcelle was just trying to embarrass her, which Garcelle's vehemently denying, reminding Kyle how they were laughing about it later. But during this, Kyle is repeatedly saying the phrase on camera, on camera, on camera. And y'all, Kyle, you're going to lose the trust from your audience if all you care about is what's on camera. Yes, is it important what is on camera and off camera? Yes, obviously. But you've been doing this long enough. You shouldn't be saying this type of shit anymore. I expect that from a newbie. And I understand that even from someone who's been doing it for 2 or 3 years. But I just have a feeling Andy doesn't like that either. Just from what we've seen him do and say. Anywho, Kyle then says she told Garcelle that she doesn't think she's an asshole, but that it was an asshole thing to say. Now Kyle touches on Garcelle getting upset with Sutton for not backing her up when she was asking those Morgan Wade questions of Kyle. But Garcelle's like, Kyle, that was about Sutton not having my back, and it's between me and Sutton. You are not a part of this, Miss Ma'am. Which Kyle says basically that Garcelle was just pissed Sutton didn't have her back in coming after her. Garcelle clarifies that it was Sutton not having her back to support her, not about not having her back and coming after Kyle. But Kyle's just going to repeat that it was about coming after her. Kyle says it was about Garcelle expecting Sutton to have her back and coming after her to put Kyle on the spot and make her uncomfortable, and starts to say, when I have, and stops herself. When you have already what, Kyle? Already explained exactly what happened between you and Morgan? Is that where you're feeling so betrayed? Is that you did tell the truth? Is that what it is? And Sutton, if you do not get your little southern lips off of Kyle's
butt.
And your nose out of her booty. Sutton is wanting Kyle to remember so badly that she respected Kyle by not talking about it when Kyle is not even listening to you and doesn't care. Also, she just called you a mean girl, Sutton. But now Kyle does say, and I appreciate that. Sally isn't buying that because she tells Sutton that she absolutely did not respect that Kyle wanted to say nothing about Morgan. And Andy wants to know exactly what Kyle's wishes were when it came to speaking on Morgan. Sutton explains that they were simply, she didn't want them talking about Morgan or for her to be brought up. Garcelle refers to the fact that Morgan has already been on the show, and that if she had not agreed to be on it prior to this season, it would be okay if she said she didn't want that part of her life out there. But Kyle says Morgan didn't sign a contract to be there. I'm the one who did. And Andy asks Garcelle if she feels that Sutton is obsessed with getting Kyle's approval. Yes. But Garcelle tells him she thinks Sutton's relationship with Kyle is very important to Sutton. And Erica, I guess, just woke up from her nap because she asks Garcelle if she feels that Sutton has to back her up all the time and that it essentially has to be a duo at all times when bringing things to the group. Then she asks Garcelle, can you have independent questions without needing Sutton to support her? Garcelle's like, yeah, obviously I can, but, she doesn't have to do that, but I do that for Sutton. It's called friendship. And you know what, y'all? That Garcelle does every single time. Until she didn't, until she saw it for what it was finally. Kyle points out Garcelle's silence on the boat when Eric and Dorit were coming for Sutton and how Jennifer Tilly was also quiet. But Garcelle tells Kyle, look, I also knew that if I said one word in defense of Sutton, they'd be all over my ass for sticking up for her. And y'all, you cannot deny that, especially Kyle, who would have been all over, say, Bose, if she stuck up for Dorit in a situation like that. Now, here's the thing, too. Y'all are probably going to be a little annoyed, but I do understand where Kyle was coming from on the next point. How after the silence from Sutton's closest friends was kind of deafening on that boat, that it was then a very pointed statement when Garcelle said Kyle didn't stand up for Sutton. And here's the thing. I think personally that Kyle was very much unaware of just how obsessive Sutton had been about Kyle and that desperation for Kyle's approval and love that Sutton was seeking. I think Kyle just didn't know. And I also don't think it was totally on Kyle to stand up for Sutton in that moment, except to tell Erica, maybe chill a little bit. Why are we bringing up past grievances? But at the same time, she wasn't there when Erica started in. Garcelle tells Kyle that it was because you are important to Sutton. Now, Sutton, honey, Kyle's response here should tell you a lot. Because if you and Garcelle are now the quote unquote mean girls, then Kyle is the independent leader you are bowing to. I'm sorry, but that's how it's starting to form. Because Kyle says to Garcelle, that's not my problem. You're important to her too. So is Jennifer Tilly. Yeah, they are. But sadly, Sutton gets their love and approval all the time. And because she doesn't always get that from you, Kyle, it's all she wants. Kyle, you basically are RHOBH, her mother. Kyle felt like everyone was just coming for her and that she didn't understand what she did to deserve it. And Garcelle is really looking worn down at this point, I have to say. It's making me sad. She just looks at Kyle and says, well, I'm sorry about that. And this is while Kyle is also saying it caused her to question who she could trust. Dorit, no one asked you here, but okay, whatever.
Dorit says that's why I gravitated toward Bose so much, because I never had to question her. It felt the most real.
Garcelle looks like she's about to cry. Sutton, girl, you are not being a friend to Garcelle. Garcelle had your back relentlessly for years, like a real sister would. Okay. And I sadly am seeing even more of why Garcelle left the show. She saw this friendship with Sutton was not what she always believed it was. And that if she wanted to keep that relationship and friendship with Sutton, the show would destroy it. I think that's part of what Garcelle was seeing. Andy asks Dorit about how she felt hearing Garcelle questioning if the break-in was orchestrated. Oh boy, here we go again. And this annoys the living shit out of me because to put all of this on Garcelle as her coming up with it to just make Dorit and PK look bad, y'all, it was the entire internet along with Garcelle, saying that she doesn't believe Dorit had anything to do with it, or had any hand in doing it, and that it was very much a real thing for Dorit. But I agree. I too have questions. If y'all haven't seen the post I put up on TikTok and on Instagram about how PK posted, what was it, 2 or 3 days at most on Instagram. The post when I put this up was still up, of what is clearly a body shape in a garbage bag with the caption, I was going to go out of town, or, I was something about, I have, does anyone know where the local dump is? And it was like inferring his wife, I think, is what watch the video, because now I can't even remember what I said. But it was 2 days before the robbery. And he says, I have to leave town in a day. So who knows where the best local dump is? Very odd. It's okay for us to have questions when suddenly it did appear as though allegedly, and this is, I don't have the proof, so I'm saying allegedly, and I believe in receipts, screenshots, timeline, proof, all of it. So allegedly, people are talking about how some of PK's debts, like I believe with the Bellagio, were settled not long after the robbery. So I don't know. I think now that I'm talking it out loud, what if it had to do with that and neither of them knew? You know what I'm saying? It's a question. It's a theory. No one is accusing anyone of anything. Don't sue me. I sadly have even less money than you two seem to, Kemsleys. So, hey, you can't get water out of a rock. Anyway, Dorit says,
I really don't understand what the obsession is about one of the most traumatic things in my life. Something that I suffered terribly for 2.5 years.
I don't doubt that. And I feel terrible for Dorit and her family that they went through it. Okay. I may be joking, but I also am being serious that I don't doubt that it gave her PTSD. I would never be able to sleep again. I mean, my God. Garcelle says, look, this is just what I was feeling, and this is the last time I'm going to talk about it, but I think it was a setup.
Dorit is saying, hallelujah, because you've not stopped talking about it since it happened, Garcelle.
And Garcelle's like, no, I've talked about it like twice. She's talked about it a few more times than that, but, She confirms that she does, in fact, feel that the robbery was a setup based off of how she feels with Dorit saying it's based off of nothing. No. Garcelle says it's instinct. While this is the thing that I have to note as well. Sutton is mother effing silent. And there's no excuse here, because if it was about not wanting to let what's going on between Garcelle and Kyle get in the way of her friendship with Kyle, that's one thing. But she and Dorit loathe each other. This was the one time it should have been the easiest for you to stand up for Garcelle. You could have said anything, really. You could have just been like, hey, look, Garcelle's not coming from a place where she's questioning you or PK. There are lots of people in this world who, if they are owed money, may try and get it a certain way. We're not accusing you or PK of anything. Period. It didn't have to be saying that it was right, that she thought it was a good thing or right, or agreed with Garcelle questioning it. It could be just saying, look, this is where she's coming from. But my God. Dorit starts in telling Garcelle that there is zero factor evidence for her to draw the conclusion that she has. But Garcelle finishes that sentence for Dorit, instead saying, along with Dorit, when she goes,
there is zero fact or evidence
that I'm wrong. Dorit is so pissed at how casually she feels Garcelle can say that when it's something that is as traumatic as it is for her family, and goes on saying,
that's as traumatic as that. Garcelle.
And y'all, that's a Freudian slip if I ever heard one. Oops. Garcelle tells Dorit that she's sorry if it hurts her. It's just how she feels. It's never going to be good enough for Dorit, and I can understand where Dorit's coming from, and I also understand where Garcelle's coming from. She's holding her to it. And I think Garcelle is wanting Dorit to question and have questions now that she and PK are at odds. She's wanting her to go, look, ask yourself things, ask him things. I don't feel like Dorit is understanding, and I can get why she's not understanding that Garcel's not actually attacking her. She's doing quite the opposite, in my opinion. I think Garcel is trying to wake Dorit up on this. And again, I also don't think that Garcel is accusing PK. I think I've made my point clear where we could ask certain questions. Maybe neither one of them were fully aware. And maybe when you owe a casino a certain amount of money, someone tries to do something about it. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be this exactly. People are going to ask questions. It's the way it goes. Andy tells Dorit that he thinks for Garcelle, her questions come from the guy giving Dorit her cell phone back. Garcelle says it was also the excuse that Dorit gave on not turning the alarm on at night because the kids are running around. And when you really can have an alarm on with people moving about and running around inside your home, people do it all the time. But Dorit is really on the high horse with this, saying,
You think that I or my husband would orchestrate?
which Garcelle is trying to tell her, I never said you or your husband orchestrated it. And then she very sternly tells Dorit, I did not intimate that it was PK or you who did it. But when asked who she's saying she thought it could be, Garcelle just says, I don't know. Dorit is still hanging on to it being intimated by Garcelle that PK did it. And she asked that the tape be rolled. Garcelle does, because it's not what she actually said. It could be taken that way easily. I wish Dorit could see that Garcelle is actually not against her here. It sounds probably like I'm just giving, being a Garcelle apologizer, but at the same time, that's just the way I'm taking it. And it's just not coming out the way it needs to come out for some reason. Dorit then says that her husband, if he did that, he would have to be a sociopath who doesn't care about his family whatsoever, that he would send men into their home at night with the kids sleeping in the house and her in there. And this is when Garcelle asks again the right question. Was I the only one who felt that way? And no, Garcelle, you were not the only one finding it very odd. Then Dorit thinks she's going to really do one in with her.
You tell me who else. Your 4 other people on Twitter?
No, Dorit, it's the entire motherfucking internet. My God. Bose is very much on Dorit's side with this, saying how, it's horrible to question this, that it's dangerous and really terrible of Garcelle to say. And Garcelle's done. She's really taken it hard. And she just goes, okay, I apologize. Andy says he was going to ask where Garcelle and Dorit stand today, but obviously. So they take lunch, and Sutton is saying to Kyle that everyone hates me. I'm going to start to cry. She wants Kyle's sympathy so badly, it's unreal. And Kyle's not going to give it to her because she just tells her, no, we haven't even started yet. Garcelle's telling her glam team as she's walking out to her trailer that she really is quite surprised. She was expecting it would be Sutton in the hot seat and not her. So she feels like she can't have an opinion or say anything at all right now. Sutton heads on over to Garcelle's trailer, asking her, how do you feel? And Garcelle tells her that she feels like she can't say or do anything right. And she especially can't say how she's feeling. Sutton then says, I was a little blindsided. I felt a little thrown under the bus. Garcelle says she's sorry, with Sutton telling her it's okay, but that she feels that it's going to get really bad for her. Like it was for your friend who you were very, very quiet sitting next to, Sutton? Bose and Dorit are off talking about how awful they think Garcelle is for saying anything when it's a crime. I wish people were getting it, but okay. Sutton and Garcelle are agreeing that they feel like they're the bad guys of this reunion, with Garcelle bringing up how Erica told her she wishes she was more interesting, and that it made Garcelle think, fuck you, Erica, and says F you over and over. Garcelle adds, what? I'm not interesting because I'm not going through a divorce, that I don't have criminal activity, that I work, that I'm self-made, that I don't have a rich husband. I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. And Sutton just goes, well, she doesn't have a rich husband either. But Garcelle, y'all, she's pissed in a way we've never seen her. Really pissed. And she's just essentially saying fuck Erica. And I don't blame her. I would be so mad, genuinely. Now, here's what I believe we can expect from part 2. There, Erica's going to put Jennifer Tilly, who's joining, in the hot seat. And then we get Kathy coming in. We're going to get the quirkiness of Kathy saying she told Paris and Nikki that she was a lesbian too, to try and make light of the Kyle of it all. Next week, I don't think we're going to get a ton of stuff happening. It's going to be part 3 when Andy goes ahead and drills Kyle. And she's going to be mad. Big mad. You know she is. Sorry. Yeah. I'm hoping this wasn't the best part of the entire reunion. And it also made me sad to see how Garcelle just took a beating with Sutton doing nothing. Like, I'm sorry, if my friend is sitting there, I will fight to the death for my friends. I will. You tell me someone came after you, I'm coming after them. So, even if I don't agree with everything they did, I can also you can find a way at your big grown age to have their back. Okay. Didn't need to be that. Anywho, besties, thank you again for joining. Tomorrow is Thursday the 3rd. I will be covering Summer House, where I'm sure Jesse Solomon is going to be in some big old deep doo-doo with Miss Lexi Wood. And then I'll be back again on Friday covering part 2 of the Southern Charm reunion. Y'all, wherever it is you're listening on audio, please leave a 5-star review and leave a comment as to why you love the show. It really helps in so many ways support the show. I'm telling you, it genuinely does. And I appreciate it with all of my heart. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe, join the conversation, please. It's for you to comment, give your 2 cents with other Bravo besties. Go follow me on Instagram. Do we have TikTok for a while still or not? But regardless. And on TikTok at Besties by Caitlin, spelled Caitlin. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at Besties by Caitlin again. And check out the Pop Culture Besties Etsy merch shop with everything that is designed by yours truly. And friends, I hope you have a wonderful Wednesday. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.